Today on In the Woodyard, Tony's here. We're doing another Woodcast.
Another Woodcast?
This is
what is it, number 3?
4.
Number 4?
He can't count that high.
Oh gosh.
He's Polish. Today, we're going to talk about dump trailers.
Oh, wait a second now. We got to talk about one thing before we even start this.
What's that?
Well, you know the issue that you have whenever we travel and you eat beans?
Oh, I have issues every day.
You have
every
issues,
day,
yeah.
every
Well,
day.
I just did a review on a tool that gives me a byproduct that is going to help you out. And I happen to bring it for you today.
Oh, yeah. What
I
do you
just
got?
happen to have it for you.
You've been waiting for
It's
this.
right there.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
That is perfect.
Yep. You use that and I guarantee you won't have problems.
This is really a high quality one because I can see by the growth rings, this is from a piece of limb wood.
Yes, it is.
Ash?
You're good. You are good.
Yes, I think I'm
That's
gonna...
actually oak.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oak? Okay, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can give it a sniff.
No, it might have been somewhere. I'm going to take this along when I'm with my brother, too. I'll just set it on his seat.
There you go.
Because he's rotten.
Oh,
Thank you. That is wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to have.
you're helping me out. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
So, we decided to talk about dump trailers today. And this morning we got up, it was what? Like 35, 6, 7
Yep.
degrees. And it's almost June.
That's it?
And it was cold, so we're sitting in the sun in a out of the wind area here at the farm today. We decided to do outside, have a nice beautiful wood background, and so we're going to talk about dump trailers. And the reason we want to talk about dump trailers is we were just talking a little bit before we started here that dump trailers is one of those things that's a game changer.
Absolutely. Like you said, first thing's the chainsaw, second thing's the pickup truck, and then possibly some way of transporting that wood. Whatever it is, utility trailer, the ultimate is a dump trailer.
Yep. It's like the difference between having a dump trailer or not is like having a little bitty plug-in electric chainsaw that you have a cord hooked up to in your yard, and then going to a professional size chainsaw. It's a
I
game
like
changer.
your other analogy. The difference between a wheelbarrow and a tractor dump.
Yes, it's about like that.
That is true.
It's about like that. So yeah, getting a professional chainsaw was a big game changer. Then for me, I had my pickup. Then getting a utility trailer instead of using just my truck was a game changer because I could haul 2-phase cords or 2/3 of cord instead of just one. But then going to a dump trailer saves so much time and effort because you literally can throw it in and dump it, and you can haul more. You can haul, obviously a lot more load, and you don't have to do near as much work. It changed everything.
Well, you can dump it, and that's only half the battle. Then when you get to your yard, the hydraulics are the thing that saves you.
Yes.
So whether it's log form or bucked up or whatever, it truly does save you a lot.
Right. So a dump trailer that's like very high on the list when people ask me what should I get, what should be my next investment. Dump trailer before a processor, before a commercial grade splitter. Even I think you can get by with a small firewood business, or even just cutting wood for yourself with a box store splitter, or even if you're doing it by hand yet. The next move is to get a dump trailer if you don't have a trailer. In my opinion, it changed everything.
You've shown how utilizing a dump trailer full of split wood and then bringing it over to your stacking site and unstacking it out of there by tipping it up, it's just so much easier.
Right. Well, on my video 2 days ago, I went to a location, my buddy's land, and my old best friend.
Old best friend.
Way before you.
Way before.
And so I cut rounds and I stacked them in there, and then when I went to split them, I just tipped the trailer up right by the splitter and just took them out. Although I found out the big rounds, it was hard to get them up and over the edge, so I ended up opening the gate. But still, just tip it up and they come right to you. So that too was nice. And then, like you said, stacking. To be able to fill a trailer like I do all the time going out to my bins, tip it up and it just comes to you and you just throw it in. So it's hydraulics, a wonderful thing.
I still say for a lot of people, especially for the person who's doing it singly by themselves, the benefit of the trailer is just getting the wood. That's probably the number one thing.
Right. Well, and for a lot of people, and it was for me, going to my other buddy's land, it's 85, 90 miles away, to be able to haul a sizable load in one trip instead of making lots of small trips. I was able to maximize what my trailer and truck could haul by stacking it in there, and I could get in almost about 5 face cords or almost 2 full cords, versus a truck, or if you have just a utility trailer.
You're lucky if you're
Right,
going to
and
get two full cord or
Right.
2 face cords.
Right, and if you're going half hour to an hour away and you got to do it several times a day, you're going to save a lot of trips.
Well, once again, saving trips is one thing, but fuel costs nowadays, that is, because you're probably getting 10, maybe 14 gallons or 14 miles to the gallon at best.
Yeah, when you're pulling like 12. The other nice thing for delivery for me, when I deliver to a customer, when I pull up with the dump trailer, you look professional, it's impressive. I let the kids push the button, they love that. And the nice thing, when I used to have my utility trailer, people always wanted me to go into the garage, because you're going to unload it by hand anyway.
That's it.
And you could fit in, but that bigger trailer I can't fit in everywhere, so it's like, well, it's a dump
Good
trailer.
excuse.
I can't go into the garage. I can tip it up, just outside of the garage, and you can partially go in there, so it gets me away from
Having
people,
to stack everything.
having people want me to get into their garage, and I've been doing that less and less and less. I've got a few older people that I deliver to, and I'll back it up as far as I can get, tip it up a little, and shove it off to save them. I have some people with some health concerns, so it helps them out, and they really appreciate it. And I'll do it once in a while, but most of the time it's like, oh, it's a dump trailer. It would rip your roof right off your garage, so I can only dump it.
And they
out
understand that.
And they're like, oh yeah.
Well, if you're hearing seagulls, they're not seagulls. Mama Cat brought her kittens over here as soon as we started doing the video, they're right behind us. So that's that chirping noise you're hearing.
Yeah, we'll show you at the end of the video.
Yeah.
We got cats all around us. The kittens are about this big right now. They're trying to crawl. And I think it's their first adventure outside, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, it sounds like seagulls out here. Okay, back to the trailers.
Let's start with the first thing, truck.
This is something that you learned.
Yeah, big time, time. Yeah.
We have half tons.
We have half tons, which gives you a maximum. A lot of people, me included, thought, okay, I can get a 14-foot dump trailer, and they do make 14-foot 10,000 GVW. Right. And I thought, okay, one trailer will do everything. It'll move my tractor, it'll be able to maximize my load capacities there.
Right.
What I found is it doesn't. You can only put so much on there, and you can't put attachments on when you have the tractor with the trailer, even with a 14-foot. So you're limited there.
But the big limitation is the truck. What can it tow?
That's it.
And a lot of people don't think of that, because if you get a trailer, like say you get a 14-footer and it's a 14,000 pound capacity total. Well, your trailer itself is going to weigh 4,000, maybe 5,000 pounds. And then if you load it as full as you can get with, say, something heavy like sand or gravel, you're already say you max it out to your 14. Well, your truck's capacity, more than likely in a half ton, is going to be around 10,000.
Exactly. And also remember tongue weight. Yeah. You're going to be dragging your bottom, no pun intended, but you're going to be dragging your bottom if you do something like that. And if you don't think about that before you start loading the trailer, that front tongue weight's going to be an issue. You're going to be swerving all over the road with that. And if you got to go 80 miles an hour, that's a hazard.
Yeah, I have guys on the channel all the time coming out like, well, you could get a lot more in there. Why don't you load your truck and your trailer so you get more in your haul? Well, because I don't want to bust my truck, because I want to use it again. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Plus, there is this little department that the government has that will find you.
The checks and measures.
Well, the DOT likes to pull guys over when there's trailers going like this down the road.
Absolutely.
And the truck, they can see as sparks coming out. They know there's an issue. They can spot it.
You and I and a lot of people who are watching can look at a trailer and a truck and say, there's an issue right there.
They're overloaded.
They're overloaded, yeah. You can get away with it in this area like where we're at, the rural areas. You can get away with it. You start going into the city or on the highways, you've got a different problem.
Right. I'm going to go back to something I thought of that we should talk about maybe a little bit just before we get into all the details on the kinds of trailers and options and specifications and all the things and reasons why we ended up where we are and what we would recommend, is that trailering in itself is a huge can of worms that you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it.
True.
And there's no class on trailering, and
there should be.
I'm as a small government guy as possible. I don't want them looking up my rectum for any reason. But
really?
Well, they tend to want to. They want to know everything and control everything. And I would like it if there was classes available, because I would refer people to them. Because when I first started trailing, I had nobody told me anything. I just, hook it up and go. You don't know about safety chains. You don't know about lights. You don't know about brakes, whether they have it or not. You don't know about front loading, back loading, your tongue weight, how to back up. There's so many things that you got to worry about.
Started doing that when researching this. This is such a huge topic and everything else. Nobody understands. Go to a boat landing on the first day of the fishing season and just sit there and watch everyone who just got a boat from the January boat show and everything, and they're launching it for the first time.
Yeah.
More divorces have come up because of that, because people just don't know.
Or fist fights.
Or fist fights, yeah. You're hogging the
There's
ramp
a lot
area.
to know,
Yep.
and I always tell people, if you're buying a trailer for the first time, ask as many questions as you can think of, watch as many videos as you can, and when you get the trailer on a weekend, go to a big parking lot and
Absolutely.
practice backing up, practice going around corners, get to know the trailer, get to know what it can and can't do, because when you get out in traffic, and I've had this happen, one of the first times I was towing a load of firewood and I had too much back weight, not enough tongue weight, I went over some railroad tracks and I got that whipsaw action, and it ripped away that collar that clasps on around the bottom of the ball. It ripped it away, so the whole trailer went up on me, and then of course I had safety chains on, but then it dropped back down and I was plowing down the road, sparks were flying, I pulled over, and it was like, that's a scary thing.
Well, my issue was very similar, but I did the dumb maneuver that everyone does. I had a 2-inch ball on a 2 5/16 trailer, and I was at our tractor dealer unloading, and the guy's yelling, "Whoa, wait!" Because he saw it coming right off of the trailer. But it happens, and you just gotta. I know you put pink on yours, on your 2 5/16 ball.
Yeah.
And that's a great idea to change colors on the two, because
I've seen guys that paint color coding. They'll put like a white and white, and then they'll have on the other side, they'll have blue and blue, so they match up colors, which
it helps you, but sometimes when you're stressed out, it happens.
Yeah, what my problem was the 2 times I did it is that I had moved something else. I had moved my splitter somewhere around in the yard and then forgot to flip it back over, and then got a wood delivery and I hooked it up. One of them I got to the guy's house, and I started going up, and the whole tongue started coming up. Like, oh! I realized what it was right away. It just dawned on me instantly. Like, that's the wrong ball.
Yeah.
And then one other time I got halfway there, and I was thinking, did I flip the ball or not? I pulled over in the parking lot. Sure enough. Yeah. So I pulled over and I jack it up, flip it over, put it back on.
Well, if you can remember, that's a good thing. But usually it's too late.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So, and I know other people recommend that when you're hooking up a trailer, even if you're experienced, if you've got another person with you, have them check it all over.
Always a good idea.
Make sure your brakes are working, make sure your safety chains are hooked up, make sure your lighting is hooked up, make sure that your breakaway brake cable is on properly, make sure your load is good, make sure your load is secured, make sure it's not too far front, too far back. All the little things that there are to know, that it takes quite a while to learn all that.
And doing a load of a trailer is not fast. If you do it, there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
Whether you use ties or the straps to put on there, do you have them right? The chains, do you have them secured probably, or are they? You saw the sparklers that go down the road, and it happens to all of us.
The other thing that happened to my brother, which can happen to anybody, you hook up your safety chains and you're sitting in a way that your trailer and your truck aren't level. He was sitting on a hill, so it was good, and his safety chains were a couple inches off the ground. He thought nothing of it. Well, as soon as he got on the road, the chains were dragging, but he didn't know it till he got to his first gas station. His chains were gone. They weren't gone, but he'd wore completely through, and all he had was dangling chains on 2 ends. He had no safety chains. They ground right down.
And there's the other thing of, if you're doing your loading on a hill, making sure you have wheel chocks. Because because when you're loading everything, it'll lift up the back end. So many different things. Gun pickup, which is the most common.
Yep.
Then you have to go with your GVW on it, and remember that the GVW is the trailer less than the gross weight. So that we know. After that, what size do you want? 12 foot, 14 foot. And you've had a couple of different ones. You had a 10-foot, right? And then you switched to a 12-foot.
Yep.
Do you notice a big difference in how you maneuver with it?
Yes, the longer you go, the harder it is to get in small spots.
Oh, in small spots. But I
turn
found that the longer you go, the easier it is to back up.
Yeah, because you have a longer tongue weight, longer distance from your hook, from your ball to the tires.
Right.
So that longer distance is actually easior for backing. That's true.
That is true.
Yeah, you
but
get a short trailer.
Forget about it.
Yeah, they're just instant jackknife.
It's just like doing your box store splitter on the back of yours.
Right.
That thing's, forget about it. You can't back that up.
Forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it.
Yeah, it does make it tough. But yeah, there's so many things. We're going to try to cover as many as we can here. Hopefully this will help some of you. And so when I bought my first trailer, I should say I didn't buy it. A friend of mine, my old best friend, gave me his trailer because it was falling apart. All the wood was rotten. So I took it all apart, redid it. It was a 5-foot wide by 8-foot long, just a utility trailer.
That's
so
the same one I've got.
I redid the whole thing, and it worked excellent for about a year or so. And then my business started growing. I needed more, so that I'm going to get a dump trailer. Plus, it only had one axle, so you couldn't really put that much weight into it. And I wanted to get a dump trailer, not knowing anything about dump trailers. So I started looking, which was a big mistake.
That's a Carlson thing.
Well, it's a lot of people like, good enough is good enough. Well, not in dump trailers. You're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Once again, we can use the same analogy as a tractor. You went to an area that's not far from you, so you thought of, so probably at that time you weren't thinking of it, but service.
Right.
Because they're the largest ones around here.
Right.
So you went there and they had a whole different kinds, and you probably went, give me the cheapest one you got.
Well, it was like when most people go to buy a car. I didn't want the cheapest one. I had a budget. And when I first went, I was thinking, trailer. I'm thinking a couple, $3,000. Well, you can't really touch a dump trailer now for less than about 4 or 5. Like that's a single axle, small one. That's a little bitty one.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, I think I paid somewhere around $4,000, and it was a deck over, no active brakes, which I didn't know that there was a difference when I bought it because they never told me. I asked the guy, I says, does it have brakes? He says, yep. Well, all they were was the safety brakes.
Yeah.
They weren't active brakes, and I didn't know there was a difference. I didn't know what to ask.
Well, a lot of times they talk about them being electric brakes,
Yeah.
And do you have a controller inside your vehicle?
He never asked. He should have asked me that. Now that I know what I know, he should have said, well, what do you have for a truck?
He was a bad salesman.
He was just taking an order. And I remember how it went. It was like, which one do you want? Well, this size is nice, and this is about because in my mind I was thinking around $3,000. I ended up spending like $4,500. So it's like when you go buy a car.
That's it.
You think $20,000, you're going to spend $30,000.
That's so true.
And so I was happy with it, and it worked great and everything. But now that I know what I know, he did not ask any questions about what I was going to be using it for, other than hauling some stuff.
Thank God for YouTube, because you could learn so much about the questions to ask.
Yes, that's kind of why we're here today, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So if you're buying one for the first time or the 10th time, things that we've encountered that maybe will save you some headaches. So Definitely. I got that deck over one, and I used it for 5-6 years, and it was great. It made me a lot of money, saved me a ton of time. It was something that I would definitely do again. If I was starting over, I would get a smaller, lighter one like that because it worked perfectly fine. But the things about it that I didn't like, obviously didn't have active brakes, and it was a steel trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And being that we drive for 6 months of the year, not on roads, we drive on salt, it didn't last long.
Well, we all have to consider the budget.
Yeah.
And there are, and I don't know what the stats are, but there's probably 85% that are going to be black. And the 15 or 20% that are galvanized or aluminum in there, but there's a huge difference in cost too. So
and why is it that they use black? It's got to be cheap paint.
I have no clue.
Because you don't see very many colored ones.
Well, some manufacturers offer them, but they're a premium. You know, a red or green or whatever. Yeah, you pay for it extra.
Pink. You'd want pink.
Of course.
Okay.
All right.
We talked about size now. So payload is one of the things that they don't talk about either.
That's a confusing one for a lot of people.
Because a lot of people, like my trailer that I have right now, sitting right over there, the N&N galvanized trailer, it's a 10,000 pound trailer.
So you can load it with 10,000 pounds, right?
Nope.
Why not?
Because the trailer itself weighs 3,000 something.
So you got to deduct that.
Gotta deduct that.
Ah, so now you're only at
7-ish.
7-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
so
what you've got.
And a full cord of oak is how much?
If it's green, fresh cut, about 5,000 pounds.
Okay, so you're not really far from that magic number, huh?
Right, and I can probably fit almost 2 in there if I stack it, so I know I can overload it. And if you're putting gravel or sand, it's real easy to overload.
Oh, absolutely.
So
when the
those
guy
are
put the
things-
scoops in
The
there
whole
and you
trailer
watch the whole trailer go, yeah.
Those are things you don't know until you experience it. And pulling a heavy loaded trailer is a whole nother thing. And
Yeah.
I finally last year got a brake controller, and what a difference to have.
Well, when you
brake.
first picked me up and you had a full load in your trailer and I was looking for your brake controller, it was like, you're just doing this on your
my
car,
brake controller
on your
was
truck?
right here. Push
Yeah.
harder.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe that for 4 years you were using it without a brake controller. Overloaded.
Way overloaded.
Which you do a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do. But now that I know what I know, I don't overload anymore. I get to I'm okay with having a little bit less.
So education is a good thing.
Unfortunately, usually comes the hard way.
Yeah.
Pain.
That is
education.
true.
You get hurt enough times or go through enough crap, eventually you're going to start getting smarter. Eventually. Some people never get smarter.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered the gross vehicle weight. How about axles?
Okay, well, you can get, obviously, as many axles as you want. They will make that for you.
But what about weight on the axles?
Well, there's different kinds of axles.
that's true.
And there's different sizes of axles, which until you start looking, you won't know that. But a basic axle is a 3,500 pound axle.
Correct.
Which means they're going to rate the trailer, if you have one, they're going to rate it at 29.95 or 29.50, I've seen. Because they want to keep it under the 3,000, because at 3,000,
That's the magic number.
that's the magic number where most states you need to then get it licensed.
Yeah, that's it.
Some states you have to license all of them, but in Wisconsin, where we live here, 3,000 is the magic number. Once you go over
And
that-
double axle.
Yep, double
All
axle's
dump
automatic.
trailers here, automatic. You got to get a license regardless of even
Another
if it's
thing about the double axle, while I'm thinking of it, I went on a trip once with a trailer that was a double axle, and I had to go out to Pennsylvania. You know what I found out? Every axle, when you go
That's
through
right.
the tollways, you pay for those axles.
depending on which, you're right, depending on which state you're in, it different toll rates,
Yeah.
but you're right. It's ridiculous.
And your license and registration is another thing on top of this
Absolutely.
that will dictate the cost, what you're going to pay, depending on the total weight, what you can
Gross
haul.
vehicle weight, axles,
Yep.
and there's one other
Number
thing,
of
but yeah,
Yeah, and they'll ask you, what do you want to rate this at?
that's it.
I said, well, it's a 10,000 pound trailer. She says, well, you can get the next license up, and it's only this much more. I'm like, but it's a 10,000 trailer, so I've
GVW.
got the XR, I think is what it's called.
Right.
And the next one is like a CX or something. I don't know. There's different numbers for rating in Wisconsin for your plates. And every time you go to the next level, you're going to pay an extra $50, $75,
That's it.
$100 every year for that license. It allows you then to get by hauling the extra weight.
That's it.
However, if you get caught hauling extra weight, even if you got the license, but your trailer's not rated for it, the DOT likes to give you a piece of paper.
That's it. It's to donate to their charity,
That's correct.
which is them.
That is correct. So yeah, so on axles, you got your basic 3,500 pound axle, and if you got two of those, you got a 7,000 pound total weight.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to take away the weight of the trailer, say it's 2,000 pounds, so it'll bring you back down to about 5,000. And that's about what my deck over was.
Mhm.
It was a 7,000 twin 35s, or 3,500s, and so my total capacity was somewhere around 4,800, something like that.
And probably the most noted brand out there is Dexter when you look at axles.
Axles, correct.
Dexter has been making great axles for trailers and other things for many years. So the premier trailer manufacturers are using them.
Right. And there's other brands, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Those
There
ones
are.
good ones. So we talked about different axle has now. Up from the 3,500 is a 5,000 pound axle.
Right.
And that's what I have.
That's what we have on ours is 5,000.
So, twin
And then
5,000s.
when you go to the 14,000 pound,
And you get twin 7s.
twin 7s, correct.
And then I don't know beyond that because my truck can't handle it. And
True.
for those of you that have 1 ton trucks or 3/4 tons, yes, you can go bigger and you can add more axles. You can get 3 axles and have a big gooseneck, and that's a whole nother level, because that's DOT stuff then.
Correct.
So, and that's not really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the average guy or girl that's going to want to haul some stuff.
And then when we're right there at the axles, you're looking at suspension. It's all going to be leaf springs, but they have something called slip spring suspension, and that makes it ride a lot easier. And that's what we have on ours.
Right. So that's that cradle basically.
It's the little square channel in between your leaf springs that kind of pivots back and forth and just makes it a softer ride, especially when you're doing empty loads, when you're traveling empty.
Well, they're so stiff for hauling weight that generally if you're hauling your trailer empty and you're going down rough road, your trailer's going to bounce.
Yeah. And you'll find every road that has the worst ribs in it, and it just shakes you when you go down it.
Yeah. The other thing is if you get a segment of highway that has sections poured, where you get a section where it'll have a slight increase and then a slight drop, but a slight
thump.
You get that thumping, but you also get this action in the truck. You start bouncing up front because your whole trailer's going down while you're going up, so you get that whipping action. So you're sitting right.
That's it.
And that's very common in dump trucks. I guess guys that drive dump trucks hate that.
For sure.
Okay, so we talked about the different axles, and like I said, we're going to stick to that 3,500 pound axle to the 7,000 pound axle, because that's going to cover most
the half ton, which is probably,
or even up to a 3/4 ton.
You're right, even up to a 3/4 ton. But
and then the next thing is to talk about is the size of your box. A small box would be a 5x8, and I have found some dump trailers that are that size that are single axle, very small. And like for a guy that maybe was going to buy it for personal use, it might work. I wouldn't recommend those. I want the 4 wheels. The 4 wheels are going to ride better. You're going to have more capacity, which is why you're buying a dump trailer in the first place.
True.
And then the box size, to me, a basic size is going to be 6 foot wide by 10 foot. That's like your basic.
6 foot to 72 inches, and then it kind of goes to the 83, or some people have 82
wide.
and 80. Yeah. As far as the width is concerned. So yeah, you can put your tractor on there easily with no problems most of the time on those. But yeah, and that extra foot adds that much more wood that you can carry.
Right. Well, but then can your truck handle it?
Well,
so there's all that. And then the next size up, which is what we have 6 foot wide by 12 foot long, which to me for a half ton is about ideal. And that's why we ended up there. Now, tell them your story about your big dump trailer you had, your big SureTrack.
Yeah, I couldn't find any galvanized trailers during COVID. I mean, absolutely none. I tried 5 different states, couldn't find it. So I had to actually drive to Illinois to pick out a trailer that they were getting. I was on the list, and he says, yeah, you're number 1 on the list. You can have the choice. So I picked the SureTrack trailer, and it was a 83 by 12 foot, standard black and everything, but I had some additional modifications done on it.
Very nice trailer.
Very, very nice trailer, but it was 3,500 pounds empty.
Right.
And so you take that and subtract that from the 10,000 pound, I did load the heck out of that thing, and it did work well, but it was one of those, I truly, in our weather, after seeing yours, it just made sense. So fortunately, your brother liked mine, and we had a nice deal between the 3 of us. And
his truck is actually a better
truck. It definitely is.
3/4 ton.
Yep.
He's got 3/4 ton diesel Chevy, and weight-wise, he can handle it much easier than we could have with our trucks.
Yep. And he loved it.
Yeah, and he
absolutely loved it. And I mean, we went up up to your brother's and picked up all that lumber the time in the winter time. There, those slabs of wood, and brought them back here to the city, and we helped him move how many loads with that, and it worked fantastic. And I think once he saw that, he wanted that trailer.
Yeah, because he was doing everything by hand.
That's it. That's it. So, and even you can change a Carlson's mind.
Well,
I couldn't believe that, but yeah, you could.
we are pretty simple.
Yeah.
The thing is that in everything, and in trailers, why we're talking about this, you don't know what you don't know.
That's true. That's
and
true.
You get set in your ways that, oh, this is the way it works. And yes, there are times people give me suggestions that it's not going to work for me, not my situation.
They're your shooters.
But yeah, they're your shooters. You should do it my way because my way's better. Well, it is for you, but not necessarily for me. However, a lot of times people give me suggestions like, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
That's a good idea. And I try it like, how come I've been this dumb for the last 60 years? So,
yeah. No doubt about it. Just keep an open mind when someone's talking to you. Don't block them out.
That's one of the big things I've got from YouTube is that you got to be open-minded because sometimes there's a person that will make comments that aren't necessarily up to the level what a lot of people are. But then every once in a while they come up with something that's like, wow, that's fantastic. And then there's other people that think they know everything and want you to know it. So it's interesting. But everybody sharing makes all of us smarter.
Absolutely.
And that's a great thing. So don't hold back on helping each other out or making comments. That's a good thing. And we just try to share it. That's all we're really trying to do.
That's it. That's it.
Okay, so
what else you got there? You got the axles. You got.
Yeah, we got lots. We got lots here. The next thing is.
Do we want to start towards the front, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's start up.
How about the tongue jack?
Tongue jack.
They have several options on tongue jacks. First being the standard tongue jack that you just crank round and round in a horizontal fashion, and it goes up and down.
Slowly.
Okay. The next best one is a drop leg. You can still have that same crank, but what it does is there's a drop leg on the bottom that you can pull a pin and it drops the leg down so that you don't have to crank as much. Then you go to our dump trailer like we have, and this one cranks on the side this way, and that one is rated at about 5,000 or 7,000. I can't remember what the weight capacity on that is. But let me see if I have it. No, I did not write it down. But you can go to an 8,000 pound that is even extra heavy duty with a spring-loaded drop leg. So when you pull the pin, it automatically shoots down to the lower level. You don't have to crank it all the way down. Super, super nice. And then the ultimate is a hydraulic assist,
which we're both going to be getting.
Yes, yes.
So that's a cool.
And that feature, you're using your electronics for your dump trailer and the hydraulics from that to lift and lower your load. And as we were talking, it's really beneficial when you have a heavy load.
Right, when you got that weight on it. And I didn't think it was really something necessary to get. They offered it to us. Yeah, that'd be cool. But then I saw a video of a guy using it, and he had his trailer loaded full of gravel or something, and it's just like, whoop, whoop, like, ooh, that is nice.
Yeah, they have that on boat trailers and everything else, and it's a real nice feature. But it costs, you're probably looking easily at an $800 upcharge on that.
Right.
Okay, we just finished with the jack. So. One other thing, since we're right up in front, and that is the harness. Now, most trailers have the black harness. Perfectly good 7-pin, but if you really look out there, there are better harnesses. There's a double connector harness, which really locks in real good. And the next thing that I like is the blue corded ones are severe weather. So you can take those in sub-zero weather and they're extremely flexible.
Well, the one we have, the cord is very flexible.
Yep, yes, and that's what I'm saying is...
Yeah, those are nice.
On my SureTrack, it was the black one, and when it was cold, you fought it.
Yep.
And that's where it could pull out easily. And that's why that double connector system is really important, as well as that blue cord.
Right, yep.
And it could be a black cord, and they all call it weather, cold weather. But you can, it's like a noodle in sub-zero weather. You know you got that.
Right.
So
the next thing, safety chains.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it has safety chains and make sure you use them.
Well, with a dump trailer, naturally you have the chains and you have the brake, emergency brake.
Right.
So you make sure that that's working, but it won't go anywhere if the pin is pulled anyways. So
right, and I had that happen to me once. I was in the woods and I had it hooked up and I was going along and I backed up and I must have hooked some brush and it got activated. And then I looked and the truck was kind of going a little bit hard, and I looked and I could see the tires were just kind of sliding.
Yeah.
I have a piece of wood wedged in there, and I looked, well, here the brakes were activated, so they do work.
Yep.
So that was interesting.
I've done that too. In fact, I've had the cable actually break on me, so that it was dangling. I'm like, holy cow! But it didn't activate; it just broke.
Right.
So yeah, check that out.
So then from there, then you're going to have some type of a box that all your controls are going to be in. The box that we have now in ours is an aluminum box, with I think it's aluminum top. It's the whole box aluminum.
The whole box is aluminum,
which is really nice.
And it also has a telescoping hydraulic arm, which is super nice because when you pull the lever, it just. That Sure Track that I have, I was so disappointed. Beautiful, nice steel box. When you open it up, they give you this dinky little handle that you got to try to find a hole. Totally disappointed.
And then the
with
other
that.
thing is, if you flipped it all the way open,
that's right,
it would hit the ram, and if
it
your
could
ram
potentially,
comes down, it can crush the door.
Absolutely.
So ours now pops up and it stays right where you want it, which is really nice.
Right.
So that's a good thing. The next thing is the inside goodie part. And the first thing I want to talk about is the charger that ours came with.
Well, that's it. That's an option for most trailers, is a trickle charger.
Right.
Either it works from the car, or you can plug in a 110 volt and it's like a 2 amp or 3 amp charge.
Ours does both.
Yes, exactly.
Charges while you're driving, and you can plug it in and recharge it. Since I've changed because I had a bad battery, since I changed it out, it's been fantastic.
But also, you and I discussed possibly getting a solar option with the panel on the top, so that we don't have to use 110. Let's say we're at your former best friend's house and we're cutting there and we stay overnight or whatever. That thing will charge.
He's assuming a lot of things here.
Well, you know what assume. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one thing about the solar charger, I did see a trailer, because I saw one in a parking lot, and this was maybe a month ago. A guy had a solar one on there, and it was all smashed. It was actually part of the top. It was like I don't want to say it was built in, but it was stuck on in a way that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And I saw that they must have dropped something. It was all cracked and smashed. So maybe.
Well, that happens. That happens. But for right now, you don't need that.
No.
You know, you have enough capacity to charge, especially with your portable charger that you have.
Well, what I chose to do, instead of getting a solar charger, because a lot of guys mention, get a solar charger. It's wonderful. It's great. It is everything. In the wintertime, when I'm here with my tractor, because I had it outside, and my lawnmower, I've never had it with my truck yet, and then this trailer, once in a while had a dead battery or a weak battery. So I went and I got myself a really good, and I haven't had it on the channel yet, a really good portable power pack.
See, and that I keep in the car just to jump people.
Yep, I do too.
And that thing has saved me for multiple things. It has the light on it for emergencies at night. It has charging cables for all electronics,
USB
iPhones,
cables.
USB, all of them. And it's just very small.
But they're not cheap. I was surprised. I expected to be like less than $100. I paid $250, $260.
It all depends on how many wattage you want.
I got the biggest one I could find.
That's it.
And it's nice.
Yep, that's for sure.
So when we're talking about the charging of it, obviously keep your battery as fresh as possible. Get the bigger the better as far as your marine deep
cycling.
And I know some of the bigger trailers now have 2 batteries, which is smart. I've seen that on some of the reviews I've looked at where guys have 2 batteries in the compartment. Another thing that I have in my compartment to go along with obviously your baddie, your hydraulics, and your charger, I have a tire changer.
Yep, the 4-way tire changer.
Put it right in there, and that way it's in there. I also have a small block of wood in case I'm in muddy area, so I pull it out and I can put that down.
I've got the same thing along with extra bungee cords in there.
Yep, I got a bungee cord in mine too.
And the other thing which we hadn't talked about, for $30, now I haven't done it for mine yet, but for $30, you can put a remote control so that you don't have to have the cable going on. So far I haven't had used that, but it is available. And
I've had a lot of people tell me, you need to do it. It's so easy, it's so cheap. I don't know. I grab the remote, I walk over to the side. I don't know.
But for us, the nice thing about ours, and there's some manufacturers that offer it, is power up, gravity down. that, and we'll talk about that,
Yeah,
in a
that's
second.
in the box too. That was on my list of things to mention.
So,
is that
well, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got on ours, we got power up or we can power down, but we also have a little brass valve that's in the system that you just turn the valve out and it's just gravity down. You're not using any electricity. The only drawback from that is if there's other people around or animals or kids, you got to be very careful because there's no stopping it once you walk away.
Right, that's exactly
It's just
it.
coming down. Like you'll see me when I do deliveries that I'll go release that valve. And then by the time I walk around to the back, it's down enough that I can close the doors, close it. By the time I get back to the front, it's down, and then I close the valve back up. Because if you don't close the valve, next time you go to power up, nothing happens. Because what it does is it just opens all your lines.
That's exactly it.
So you have no pressure.
Well, when I was looking at other trailers, that was the one feature I believe, I don't hold me on this, but I believe it was PJ Trailers that offered an option, and it wasn't necessarily, well, it was on a dump trailer, but that had the up, power down, and it had a separate button for gravity down.
Oh,
so
nice.
they had a controller that had all three of them.
Nice.
But for us, I like the fact that we can take that knurled brass knob, undo it, and just it goes by itself.
Right,
That's
right.
really nice.
Yep. The only thing I don't like about it is it is only about a quarter inch. It is tiny.
Yeah.
And if it was a flat or a T would be awesome.
Exactly.
I had Bert look at it. He says we can fix that. He's a machinist, so yeah. Because it's hard to get a hold of sometimes, especially when it's really cold. It's just hard to get a hold of. You got to really grip it tight, because it's tight once you tighten it down. And so yeah, that's one of the things. Okay,
So,
what else?
What else
inside
we
the
got?
box?
Let's see here. Well, inside the box, we talked about our charger.
Yep.
We talked about the what accessories we keep in there. I also keep in there a hitch lock. In there, and in many cases, I have a braided cable, a 1/2-inch braided cable with double ends that I put around the axles of the tire, and with one of those heavy-duty locks.
Right, which is a good
And I
idea.
might be paranoid, but if I'm leaving it somewhere,
Well, you should be paranoid.
Yeah, they're expensive.
I was at a hunting show years ago. I repped for a friend of mine that had products in the hunting industry, and for those of you that are big hunters, you might know this hunter. His name is Miles Keller. Big hunter, great hunter, did a lot of work with different companies, and he was at a sports show, and this was like a long time ago, like I don't know, a dozen years or so ago. And they went out to eat one night, and he came back, and as they're driving back down the interstate, like, oh, look at that trailer, just like mine went by. It was his trailer. He never got it back.
Yep, trailers are a thing, especially during COVID. There was a lot of theft because you couldn't get any of them. So that's a huge thing, making sure that you somehow secured. And you were telling me about an options that they have where you can get a disc or on your phone, the service that you can purchase and put a disc on there so it electronically.
They come in 4-packs.
They come in 4-packs.
And I have them.
And you have them. Do you have it on my trailer?
Not on yours.
Why not?
Because I have it on my stuff.
Oh,
So yeah, it
thanks.
tracks it on your phone. It's called the AirPod.
An AirPod.
And anytime it leaves the designated area, you
The
get
home
an alert.
base.
Yeah, you get an alert, and you hide it on your whatever you want to put it on. I shouldn't even be telling you this, but I have them on my tractor. I have it on my trailers. I have it on my splitter. Anything that can be moved, I have it on.
I thought you put one on your wife.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Oh, God.
She's got to make money.
Oh, okay. So, how about let's talk about what kind of lift systems?
Well, yeah. There's basically 3 different kinds. Well, I should say kinds. They all use hydraulics, but one is a scissors lift, which
That's a very common one.
Usually there's 2 of them, and they're center to back, and they lift from the sides. So is the scissors. And then there's dual or single ram, which is basically also a scissors. It just doesn't have that extra joint like a pair of pliers would have.
Right.
And the single ram usually is going to be mounted smack dab in the middle. It's going to be a bigger cylinder, bigger rod that is going to lift it. Or there's duals, which a lot of people have. But then about probably 5-6 years ago, a few companies started getting smart and doing what the dump trucks do.
Well, it hadn't been around for a long time, and that system has proved itself. How many, 20, 30 years they've had all dump trucks pivot, or all of them use the telescoping.
In the front.
And it makes sense. And the way the guys were explaining it to me is, if you're lifting something, try to lift something in the middle of a box as opposed to one of the ends.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Half as much weight.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the difference it makes. And that's what we have on our trailers.
But the other benefit of the telescoping is it actually goes higher, and you get a higher 40, almost a true 45 degree.
Oh, I think it's steep.
It's steep, so you're not getting the issue like you had with your deck over, where you still have stuff inside after you dumped it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've not had that problem dumping with mine. I might get some caught in D-rings, but not that often.
Right, right. And that was one of the things about his old trailer that my brother Ken has now, the SureTrack. Your D-rings were mounted on the side.
The reason I did that was one of the modifications I had them do.
Yes.
After researching it, I go, why don't manufacturers put D-rings on the side as opposed to on the floor?
Because I think for equipment it's better or easier.
Well, it still bolts the same way, you know, and I know there might be more reinforcement, I don't know, but they were able to put it on the side so you don't have that issue. And then the other thing that I did is I put extra D-rings on, because I wanted a D-ring in the center of the dump trailer, so that I can pull stuff up if I needed to, you know,
winch something
up. Yeah.
Well, it's like having outlets in your house. More is better. More
is better, correct. Yeah. So that's it. Look at the D-rings. If it comes with 4, you might consider getting 1 or 2 more. They're not bad. They were only about $40 each to add them.
In the Rams, the front ram is, I think, by far the best way to do it. Because I've used all kinds now with other people. I've seen them. I've used them myself. Front ram's the best.
Well, think about it. How many times have you front-loaded your trailer as compared to a scissor single or double ram? Yours is able to pull it up, and that's just the geometry of it. I mean, it's so much easier. You can front-load it without having to move the whole load over to equalize it.
When I had my deck over, I commonly would a lot of times load it to the front, starting, and I'd start a lot of times with the big rounds I was cutting, and a lot of times I'd get back to dump it, and it just wouldn't go.
Yeah.
So I had to take stuff from the front, throw it to the back, or throw it off, and I'd have to take off the first couple rows, the tops anyway, and then it would lift.
But you've learned from your mistakes on that one, especially with loading.
Yeah, and what you can and can't do.
Right in that general area, let's talk about tires.
Sure.
You know, the cheaper, you're not going to find this too often, but when they really want to cheapen a trailer, they put bias ply tires on it. But most of the dump trailers are going to have radial tires. And they'll be rated tires for 6 or 8 or 10 ply, even 12 ply tires.
Well, now they generally go with the letter designation. You're going to have C's or D's generally.
Correct.
E's are even better yet. The higher you go into the alphabet, the heavier ratings they have.
The sidewall and everything.
And they're rated by the weight now is what more than anything. So when I had my trusty rusty dump trailer that I sold to Mike at up in the UP.
Yeah, that's it.
I had to put new tires on it, and I went up a class because it was like because I needed new tires, and to go up from the C's to the D's was like an extra $40, I think, total. So I was like, put them on.
And it's just, you're so much safer with going with a higher rated tire.
Absolutely. So the other thing with tires that no one ever mentions or talks about, no one includes the spare. You almost always have to pay for the spare.
Not only the spare, but the bracket.
Yes.
Sometimes they'll give you a welded spare tire bracket right on the trailer. But more often than not, it is an option for both the bracket and the tire.
And then the other thing, where's it mounted? Because sometimes it's in a stupid place.
Agreed.
Sometimes it's in the way.
Yeah.
And is it a full-size tire? It better be. There's no reason to have a smaller tire.
You're not going to have a blimpo on that.
And then the other thing is, do you work that tire into the rotation? Because you should.
Well,
if you rotate tires, it's a good idea. People will do that because that'll give you an extra 20% of your tire life.
True.
By rotating, and otherwise you're never going to use that spare. It's going to dry rot,
and
which is a good thing.
Well,
if you
let's
never
talk
have
about
to.
that because that was the next thing I was going to talk about, and that is spare tire cover.
Yeah.
They're $25.
Yeah.
They're worth their weight in gold.
Did you get one for years already?
Yeah.
See, I got to get one. I don't have one.
Yep. I
yeah,
ordered it up, and the other thing is, since I don't use my trailer as much as yours, I park it outside, just like RVs. The skirts on the tires, because they're going to dry rot as well.
You're a skirt kind of guy.
I'm a skirt kind of guy. Yeah.
Okay, so then on tires,
what covers the tires?
fenders.
Hey, I like that.
There you go.
And
most good trailers will have fenders you can stand on.
bingo, that
Because
is a
cheap
number.
ones,
They'll tell you, not a step. Yeah. Well, what good is it? How can I get into my load if I can't step? And you know that people are stepping on.
oh, sure they are.
Yeah.
I had a trailer that I stepped on once that was I think it was a fishing boat trailer that I had. I needed to step into the boat, and it just flattened it right down. I had to bend it back out. But yeah, you want to, if you're buying a good trailer, you're going to want it not only to be steppable on top of the tires, but then to have another little front and back step down low, so you can use it as a step, and then a step, and then a step to get up in there. 'Cause
Correct.
you will need to crawl up the sides.
As you get a little older, you can't lift your leg high when you get older. So, okay.
I guess
Show
I'm
us, Mr. Ballerina.
I guess I'm not very old yet.
Yeah, I guess not.
I hope I never catch you.
Can you kiss your... Anyways.
Okay.
Fenders. The one thing that we have too on our fenders is our ramps fit right on our fenders.
Yep, there's a bracket to mount the ramps right outside.
And the company, or Thumb Trailers, they go one step further and put rubber grommets or rubber reinforcement. Yeah, these guys.
We got matching
I know.
matching
But
shirts on.
they put these rubber blocks on there so that it doesn't, you don't get that, I mean, you don't want everyone in a 2-mile radius to know you're coming. And with some trailers, they're a squeaky mess.
And they make a lot of noise. But for me, I took my ramps off because I rarely use them.
Bingo, I did
and
too.
I know I'm going to use them. When I'm going to use them, I'll put them on. And the reason I took them off is 2 reasons. Why? Because they're heavy.
Theft.
Theft is number one. And they're heavy. They weigh 80, 100 pounds each. So why take away from your payload to haul those around all the time? Because a lot of trailers will have them where they're stored underneath, where they're going to get really rusty.
Exactly.
Ours are mounted on the side. So I took them off. Theft is the one reason, and then not having to haul it around and not having the extra noise. And it's right on the fender, right where you're going to step up. It's kind of in the way.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, they're not bad, but, and I thought I liked the storage underneath or on the side. But to your point, all the salt residue
Slush,
and every slush, it all builds up underneath.
Exactly.
So I like where they're at.
Yeah.
And to your point, they're heavy, and I don't want to haul those all the way around all the time.
Right.
And there's really no way of securing them.
You could probably pin them on and put a cable on or something.
You can put a cable on, but there really isn't much that you can affix it. You would almost have to drill something, put an eye or whatever, but I'm not worried about it because I don't take them with me.
Yeah, the few times I'm going to need them, I'll bring them along. And I've had to do that.
That's it.
So the next thing, we got the tires covered, we talked about
the fenders, yeah.
Fenders?
Some of the other manufacturers, like the SureTrack, they offer a step-up like that you can get as an accessory, mind you. Now, that's another option that you can get, and that's a step-up for the front that you can have. You can also use the fenders as a step-up. So each manufacturer offers something a little bit different.
Right. So then from there, do you want to go and talk about the covering?
Well, we can talk about the dump compartment and the covering. Yes, the tarp.
Okay, so
the tarp area.
The cheaper trailers will not have a tarp.
No.
Because that's where they can cut it. And in my opinion, I can see where people might not necessarily need a cover. There's a lot of people that are only going to be hauling rock that's going to be down in there, and it's not going to blow it out in you. Leaves will blow out, branches can blow out, so that'd be good to cover. The firewood for me doesn't blow it. I've used my tarp a few times. I don't load it so high that it's catching wind.
In Wisconsin, in certain cities, it's mandatory that you have a tarp cover over a dump trailer going through that city.
And it's mandatory if you have to go into a dump.
Correct. That's
Because they don't want stuff blowing out everywhere.
No.
Yeah, most dumps
and
are
speaking
recycling.
about blowing over, the one thing nice about some manufacturers is they offer a tarp, but they don't offer what's referred to as a sail bar. And that is a bar at the end of the tarp that you hook on the back. Most manufacturers don't have anything in there. They have eyelets, grommets or eyelets in there, and you have to bungee them on. And that isn't as efficient as having the sail bar that comes all the way over your product, whatever you're hauling, and then hooking on there is actually hooks on the back that hold that in. I really like that.
Yeah, I do too. It's nice to, what I like about it is I can grab that, I didn't know what's called a sail rod. I just grab the rod and pull it all the way to the back.
The rod, all right.
Throw it into the hooks and then tighten it up, which is really nice. And our little ratcheting system we have is really easy. It's one little lever and you just crank it down.
But the way some manufacturers have it, I like ours because ours is enclosed.
Right.
Totally enclosed, so that yes, it's UV protected, but the sun, if you leave it outside, is going to tear that up.
Right.
Whereas with the ones that we have, and other manufacturers have it too, that they have a box that it's, I like those as opposed to just an open tarp.
Too, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And our ratcheting system works really nice as well, and it's a heavier material on that.
Right.
So it's not going to puncture if you have
I got a hole in mine
construction.
already. I made a mistake when I put a load of wood in and I had one piece sticking up and I thought, it'll be okay.
Punctured, right?
Well, I just wore a little hole because it was just enough vibration of wind as I was driving that there's just a little hole there. So I'll have to either patch that or something. So another thing you got to consider on your trailer too, how high are your sidewalls? Some trailers are very deep, or you're going to pay extra for the higher sides.
Correct.
But most of them are going to be a couple feet.
18 inches to the 20-something inch mark, you know, and some of the better trailers will have gussets on either front and back that you can put, like yours and mine, that you can put a 2x12 in there,
right,
or whatever you feel is necessary. Right. But also remember, yes, you can put that up there. Yes, you could load it to the top, but remember, there's only so much before you are over your capacity.
Right, and I have two on mine now. I have two sections, sections, and it's as high as it needs to be. I would never go any higher. The only thing I can see why you'd want to go higher is if you're hauling very light material, like you're hauling leaves or brush.
And they make trailers specifically for that have grates or the expanded metal on the sides that you can put that landscaping trailers that they have. But one thing, let's go back to the sides that you were talking about. Check that out, because a lot of times it's all the same level. It's 18 inches all the way around. The one thing I really liked about the N&N trailer is that front comes up at least another, well, it's probably 30 inches to the front.
Right, and the tailgate, the back is too.
Well, it doesn't come 30, it's not as much as the front, but it's...
I don't know, look at it. I think it's the same height.
Yeah, it's pretty close, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's probably easily 30 plus inches.
Yeah, and a lot of trailers, it's very low in the back.
That's it.
Which is a drawback.
Especially when you're loading.
Because you can only go so high in the back, and you want it to be high. I think you want it to be higher to keep stuff from going out. So
right.
I think they're saving money by going lower. Then one nice thing, because one of the trailers we have here on the farm that I can use is not here today, the one that Adam has, it has a lower back door. When you tip it up, it's just above your knees. So it's real easy to get stuff out of the back, whereas ours is much higher.
Ours is 30 inches. Empty, it's 30 inches to the top, either 28 or 30 inches, because we were just measuring that just recently. And that doesn't seem like much, but I'll tell you what, and I know it's nothing for you, but you try jumping up on that thing, and at 28 inches, that's a heck of a jump.
Yep, it's pretty high. The height is going to vary from trailer model to trailer brand, as far as how high you're going to have it on the sides and on the back. And so that's another thing to look at.
And
they're not all the same.
Some manufacturers do not offer the gussets, so what they end up having to do is bolt 2x4s from the inside or the outside, and you're taking away from that, or they screw them on the lip. And that the minute you start drilling holes in a steel trailer, you're inviting rust. I mean, automatically. So,
and then the next thing would be the pockets that they have for some of the smaller trailers. You'll have pockets that 2x4s can drop in.
Correct.
Some of the bigger ones do too, that you can have a removable rack.
Right.
Which is nice. So those are things to consider too, and how many pockets and how are they spaced, and how do you configure the extra add-ons you're going to put on for your sideboard. So it's all stuff to consider.
And a lot of manufacturers offer a steel bar or rub rail, as they call it, around the perimeter so that you can hook stuff onto it.
Yeah.
You know, ours doesn't have that per se.
Yeah, if you look underneath the sideboard, there's a lip that curves so you can hook onto it.
It's a lip, but this is an actual bar that comes out, and you can take
I think your shirt track had that.
Yes, it did.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I say.
Yeah.
And some of them are real cheap. They just have a rebar that's painted, and it goes around the whole. It serves its purpose, but it's a cheap way of doing it.
Right.
But any hooking points for securing loads is good, both inside the trailer and outside the trailer.
Right, because if you don't secure your load, it will unsecure you eventually.
Very much.
Yeah.
The one thing, when I know you and I both looked at that trailer, we thought, what the heck is wrong with our trailer? It was wavy, and it looks like
it's a big piece of sheet metal.
Compared to my shirt track, which was beautiful, they use a single sheet of metal, and it's broke. There's a 90-degree, and a single seam weld all the way. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
And then when I saw ours, and it was wavy, and they explained to us, it's the galvanized, or the galvanization method, that it's so hot,
like 700 or 800 degrees,
or whatever it is, and then when they bring it out of that, it just warps a little. But there's some benefits to it, and you can explain what you found.
Well, the thing is that when you first get, if you buy a galvanized trailer, when you first get it, you're going to think it's not very slippery on the inside, because it isn't.
Yeah.
Because you've got that rougher surface from the galvanizing process.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get a painted or a powder coated trailer, it's going to be super slippery.
Yes.
But the powder coating is going to eventually wear off. It's going to bubble. It's going to get rusted. It's going to peel off. It's going to get beat off, and it's going to rust.
Right.
They all will. Galvanized doesn't go away.
But what did you do with your rock the first time you put it in there?
Well,
that took all that off.
We hauled all the gravel here to the farm from my wood yard, and just that, I think I had maybe, 15 trips with the gravel as it's sliding out, and now that I've been doing wood, now it's plenty slippery.
Now it was like sandpaper that you went in there with that gravel, and it just wore real nicely.
Yeah, but the little bit of waves in there is no big deal, and if you look at any dump trailer that has been used a lot, that has hauled chunks of wood, rock, gravel that's been dumped in, wherever you've got a
cross member
either direction, you're going to not always hit that cross member. You're going to hit in between, and you're going to get waves. Birch trailers have got lots of waves.
Well, that's the other thing when you look at a trailer is whether it's C-channel or whether it's a square channel, and also what's the on-center? Is it 16 inches? Is it 24 inches? Because naturally, you're going to notice those waves in a 24-inch as opposed to a 16-inch or a 12-inch on-center.
Right.
So huge things, and that costs money.
And how many cross members?
That's it.
Sometimes they'll space them out pretty darn far.
That's what I'm saying, that 24 inches,
Yeah, that's too far apart. You want more. Again, but then again, more is heavier.
Weight, yeah.
So there's always compromises. You get one thing, you lose another.
That's it.
Okay, so we talked about the inside.
Yep. Oh, and then we talked about D-rings, which are on there, whether you could get them on the floor or on the sides. So those are some options.
Right. Being that we talked about the galvanized, let's talk about the 3 different materials you can get a trailer made in. You've got steel, galvanized steel, and aluminum.
Correct.
And I would imagine there's wood, but in a dump trailer, probably not so much. And like Tony and I have been talking, the galvanized, why we went with it is it doesn't rust. And it takes. I talked to a guy that had a same trailer we have for 10 years. He said it looks just like when he bought it.
Well, I've read many reviews about the trailers in Canada, which that's where N&N is. And during the COVID, the guy said, I've had my trailer for 12 years. I sold it for more than I bought it for, and I've had it in service for 10, 12 years.
Right.
And they retain their value. It's just like a quality splitter or processor. Yep. They hold their value.
And that's one thing that a lot of guys, and I used to be guilty of it myself, that I would try to get a cheaper, good enough product, whatever it was. And over the years I have learned you're way better, much farther ahead. Spend the extra money, get the better one. You just are. It's going to last you longer, it's going to perform better, and like you just said, the resale value is always going to be better. Buy
once, cry once.
That's exactly right.
And the other thing, when you go, and I'm not saying to buy, there are many, how many brands did you figure out that there were when we were doing your research?
Well, let me just, this is some of them. I didn't write them all down because some of them I'd never heard of. Okay, I'm just going to read it off. SureTrack, PJ Trailer, Quality Steel, Griffin, Big Tex, Moritz, Iron Bull, Lamar, N&N like we have, K-Trailer, which is also galvanized, Diamond C, Southland, Texas Pride, B-Wise, Delco, Mill Road, which is aluminum, Load Runner, CJ Heavy, Load Trail, H&H, Cam Superline, Premier, and there was more.
Oh.
So that's like 20 there. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more.
That's it.
And those are some of the ones that I had heard of, and some
don't offer a dump trailer, but a lot of them do.
These pretty much all do.
They do.
Yeah. Yeah, I only kind of looked at the ones that made dump trailers. And that's the other thing. Some companies will only make small utility trailers. Some companies will only make maybe like landscape trailers, about that size. That's kind of their specialty. I think it's smart going with a company that can make all kinds of different trailers because they've been around a while, they're expanding, they're growing. The variety is good because if you find something you really like, in your case, say for instance you really like the N&N trailer, wouldn't you like to have an N&N car hauler?
Yes,
wouldn't you like to have
absolutely.
an N&N utility trailer? Wouldn't you like to have a cargo trailer?
Well, let me tell you a little story. When I was buying my first dump trailer, I fell in love with this one company, and I'm not going to mention their name, but I went ahead and I put a deposit on it in January and settled on the price and everything else. 2 months later, the salesman calls me and says, well, the trailer, we can't sell it to you, or we can't get you what you wanted because I wanted a special gate on it that they had. It was very special. And he says, oh, and by the way, it's going to be more money. And it's like, what? And I said, no, this is crazy. So he says, they don't make the door that you want, this special door that you want. So I called, I says, this dealer is pulling my leg. So I called the manufacturer and I spoke with the owner, and he says, and this was during COVID, he says, nope, we're only making this type of trailer, no options, no accessories, cookie cutter, that's it. And that's what they were doing. Now they're coming back to it.
Right.
But this was, as far as, and we're going to be covering this in just a minute, the gate differences. Right. This was called a combi gate. It was the best of both worlds. Not only did it dump, open barn door, but it also tipped down so that you could drive everything. It was the ramps and everything.
Right. Right.
Now, it was a $1,000 option.
But you wanted it.
If you look at our ramps, they're $600 for the two of them. So that really wasn't that much of an option, an upgrade option. But this combi gate was just unbelievable. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So, but
same as when you buy a car. There's always going to be features you wish you had that somebody else has got. You can't have it. The only way to have everything you want is to make it yourself. And
that's it, and that's impossible.
Well, it's possible, but
if you got enough money.
If you got enough money, it's possible. Okay, so we talked about the inside. Where do we want to go from there?
Then.
The gates, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first trailer, my trusty Rusty, it was a quality steel trailer. For those of you that want to know, it only opened one way. It was barn door gates, just flip around and open, and they didn't open very far. So that's one of the things that's huge, is that you want your doors to open as flat to the sides as possible.
Yes.
And Trusty Rusty was like wide out. I mean, that was it. It didn't. You couldn't. There's
Like
no way
wings on an angel.
Yeah, it was just wide open. And when you're in a tight spot, you want those doors to close as far as possible. So that's something to pay attention to. Another thing is that it's nice to have the doors to be able to work 2 directions, which is what ours have. Ours have the spreader gate. Although I've never used it, I haven't had a reason to. Even though I hauled gravel, we just opened it up and dumped it. But there are going to be guys that are going to want it. So that's one of those things that will help you resale it in the future. It's another feature that someone's going to be looking for, and it's a nice thing to have. So
I personally like, if you can get it, but it's not offered on many, is the third option too, and that's the pickup truck.
Right, that was
which
on my
just,
list too.
Yeah, it's on your list, yeah.
And the tailgate.
The tailgate, yeah. So you have the 3 options of the barn door, the spreader gate, and the tailgate, truck tailgate. And then this combi door that I was talking about that's probably not available anymore. Or maybe he is, I don't know. But yeah, so that's, and then make sure that they're greasable, because ours have Zerk fittings, multiple Zerk fittings on it, because those things are going to dry out over time. So having a greasable Zerk fitting on your doors is really, really something you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have. And then the next thing on the doors is make sure that there's a good system for hooking it up, hooking your doors up, chains and a place to hook it. That's the one thing that they could have done a little better on our trailers. It's just all it is a.
It's just a hook.
It's just well the hook part, but I mean on the actual door itself.
Oh, on the door.
All it is just a screw eye.
That's it.
And it's nothing special. I mean, it would have been nice to have a little bracket that you could. I don't know. It works, but it's just that to me is like that's kind of a cheaper thing that they could have done something a little nicer on. Some type of a little welded on that would be on there ahead of time. A little. 90-degree bracket that has a hole in it that you could clip onto, so it's fairly permanent.
That would make, and while we're on the gates, a place for your license plate.
Yeah.
Most of them have it at the bottom, and what happens? You tip it up, and that thing digs right in.
Not only that, is that if you tip it up and you have especially wood or chunks of rock, as it falls out, it's going to roll forward in the pile
and crush that
and hit the plate.
Yeah,
and that's how I lost my first plate.
You mounted yours on the door, which I'm going to have to do.
Put it right on the door.
Yeah,
and there was 2 holes on one side, but not on the other. So, and I had to put it right over their sticker. So that's right where it had to go. So I put it there because I knew it was going to be up and out of the way.
Well, while we're talking about the gate and that area right there, the one other, and it is an option, is load stabilizers in your rear. And they make a couple of different load stabilizers there.
If you need a load stabilizer in your rear, you have a problem.
Well, it does happen.
Yes,
it does happen. It sags a lot if you don't
gravity
have it.
always wins.
Well, the big thing there about your load stabilizers is when you're lifting, if you're putting a skid steer on it or your tractor, let's just say, it lifts the front of your truck up
and pushes down on the back.
Pushes down on the back. So your car could be going forward as you're trying to lift that thing.
Which is another thing that they don't teach you. Always use your safety brake. Always put your parking brake on. And use wheel chocks.
Yep.
That's something you should do.
The load stabilizers, as I say, is an option, and they make 2 different kinds. The one we have are a manual one, and that is there's pins or holes throughout a bar, and you just stick a pin through wherever. The other more elaborate ones actually have a cranking mechanism that you can crank the arms down to the load, and I like those for one reason. As soon as you get that up, sometimes on the ones that we have, you can't get that pin out, or you can't lower.
Because what I did is I put the foot, I put it down so far tight.
That's I did the same thing on mine, is I had to dig the gravel.
And if I would have been on blacktop or
you'd be screwed. You'd have to unload it again, and then, so you give yourself that 2 inches. Yeah, the 2 inches mark.
Got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. But yeah, that's one of those things that's nice to have. I used mine once so far. It's a nice option to have. The next thing that I'd like to talk about, seeing as we're on the gate, is look and see what type of closure system they have. Most of them are going to have some. You're going to have a cam with a rod down that locks the front I mean, lock the top and the bottom. You want that. Also look to see how your doors join together, because there's sometimes going to be just a tab that you'll have to get the two doors between, or there'll be a whole, what would you call it, like fold in the metal that you got to interlace them just perfectly to get them to lock together. And you want it to be where you have to lock them together.
Correct.
Because you don't want your load getting rammed up against that and then having the crack they can get out,
open, yeah.
or that it's going to have the extra pressure. You want to lock that across the whole back end as much as possible. And again, your more expensive trailers are going to have a better system.
Absolutely.
Your cheaper ones are going to be cheaper. So they're going to cut corners. Another thing, it's not on my list, why it's on my list, but before we go any further on it, I want to bring it up because I thought of it, is welds. One of the things
Solid
a lot of people, a lot of people don't realize is look at the welds that are on the trailer, because the cheaper ones are going to be cheap welds.
Here's what's going to happen though on those cheaper ones. What they do is they spot weld every 10 to 12 inches and then fill that in with silicone.
Right, and then paint over it.
And then paint over it. So within a couple of years that silicone's all come out and it's all rusted in that seam and everything. The nice thing about the SureTrack was it was welded all the way. Center seam and the ends.
And quality welds.
Yes.
Because I've seen some trailers, I've looked at them, oh my gosh. I'm not a welder. I mean, I kind of know the concept. I can kind of make it, and I could do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? You're selling that? Spatters all over and spaces and chunks, and it were some nasty, nasty ones.
Yep.
And they weren't even ground off. They were like, oh, how can you sell that? Because it was ugly.
The price was right.
The price was right, exactly.
Yep.
As long as it stays together is all that matters.
That's it.
So look at the welds, make sure that they're done right and done in a way that you know it's going to be strong. Having gaps in the weld is not the end of the world on some trailers, because you're going to have spots anywhere for water to drain out. Like if you're down in the corners or whatever, that's not a bad thing. But just check it over, because you're going to see a big difference in how the welds are done.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next thing we should talk about is the nemesis of every trailer.
Absolutely. This is the #1 problem on every trailer.
And if you don't have this problem on your trailer yet,
you haven't been driving a trailer.
And you will have one.
Definitely.
Lights.
Yes, it's the bane of their existence.
And especially if you're a fisherman and you put a boat into the water when your lights are plugged in and they're hot and they pop on you, that's a real fast way to learn. Don't do that.
Oh yeah.
You're always going to have problems with them. I have smashed so many lights with my dump trailers backing up, because you're backing into a pile of wood and you don't see that one piece. And
definitely.
So smashing your lenses, and not just the difference between the LEDs versus the traditional halogen bulbs or whatever it is. There's so many things that can go wrong. The wiring is huge.
Over a period of time, it's automatic that that's going to happen, because all the wear is underneath the bottom. And even though they have a protective coating, a lot of times manufacturers just crimp fit the wires. They don't solder them, they crimp fit a lot of that, and it just
there's a lot of exposed wires that are not inside the running tubes like they have.
Well, you see, that's it. That is an option on a lot of good trailers. They feed it right through the channel of the metal.
And I like that, but I also don't like it, because if in there somewhere there's a sharp edge, it's inside there and it's rubbing all the time, how are you going to find that short?
Well, you got to be a good mechanic.
Because it's going to happen eventually.
Well,
but yeah, it's.
I've gone to the point where I have a backup for my backup. I've always had. Harbor Freight sells these magnetic lights, and don't trust the magnet on them. I'm going to tell you that right now. You go 40 miles an hour and they're going to fly right off the trailer. They just don't work. So what I end up doing is using that 6-inch stretch tape, and I typically stretch wrap that on some part of the trailer, whether it's the top part or the sides. I just put it on there, and that's my emergency backup. If I'm far away, I usually have those.
I deliver wood to a guy who buys hickory for me all the time for smoking. He has a great big barbecue trailer that he made that he goes and does events, and he didn't have lights on. And because I noticed it, so he was showing me it, and I says, well, what do you do for lights? He said, oh, and he opened up he had a little box container there. He pulled them out. He had the ones that you just
clamp
hook on the back. They're magnet, and then he says, "Yeah, I got a little hook. I hook it on, and the wire you just run up over the top, plug
That's
it
it.
in." And he said, "That's all I do."
Yep. I've done that with my Axis splitter. Is just that I don't take it often, but at night having that big conveyor and
Right.
I clamped on those magnetic lights and I use quick grip clamps to hold all that in, and it's worked fantastic.
Right. So when we mentioned the lights, that's one of those things. The LED is what you want, and the other thing you got to look at is number one, where are they mounted?
Mm-hmm.
I prefer up and high.
Absolutely. The higher,
And that's
the better.
Your SureTrack had them
That
up and
Sure
high.
Track,
That
I
was
love
nice.
that compared
Yes.
to ours, which are at the bottom.
Ours are down and bottom.
You're
off
gonna
to the
break
side.
them, guaranteed. You're gonna.
They're also galvanized. They're welded.
No,
on
but you're
really good.
gonna hit the lens on your tractor. That's
Eventually.
guaranteed. I'm just surprised you haven't.
I haven't yet, and I try to be careful about it. I don't like them down low.
No.
I wish they were up high.
Yep. I
would-
agree.
I would pay extra to have them up.
I'm with
out
you
of the
on
way.
that. I would have you pay extra for
That's-
me to have them.
There's like 3 things on our trailers that I would change if I could, and the lights is number one. Number one. The other one was the eye hooks on the tailgate.
On the tailgate doors.
And then what was the one other thing?
Buy it cheaper.
No, I'd rather have it be high quality. The thing is, with buying a trailer like we bought, I know it's a good investment.
Yes.
That is never going to lose money.
Well, once again, on any of those, let's say for whatever reason you wanted to sell it tomorrow, you can get a good chunk of your money back.
I bet I could get all of it back.
Yeah,
'Cause the
probably.
well, since COVID, the price on trailers has gone up. So I know I could make money on it. But then when it's like your house.
What are you going to get?
Yeah, where are you going to live? You say, I bought my house for $100,000, and now it's worth $300,000. Well, yeah, you sell it. Then what?
That's it.
Where are you going to live?
So true.
So it's
Down by the river.
Down by the river, in a van.
Yeah.
So Tony and I might be somewhat biased in that we have the galvanized trailers, but we really do think because of where we live with the road salt we have to deal with, and because we want our trailers to be a good investment and last a long time, it was the best choice for us.
Without a doubt, you've experienced more than a lot of people that are watching us as far as trailers are concerned and usage of trailers.
And I considered an aluminum one pretty seriously. The reason I didn't, number one, it was like 20% more. They're higher cost, which I was fine with to get a really good one. The big benefit of the aluminum, you have a lighter trailer, so your payload
Payload's
increases.
higher.
But because of the added cost, the one other thing is that everything that I saw for reviews, guys that hauled any type of stone, gravel, chunks of wood, steel, anything like that, they had to put some type of an underlayment down on the
the deck.
trailer, whether it was plywood or some type of a heavy-duty plastic. They had to put something down because they could damage it so much. So,
And if you're doing that, and paying more, it doesn't make sense.
right. My son has an aluminum trailer. It's just a cargo trailer, and it is a thing of beauty.
Oh.
As far as a homeowner, it's so, and like he said, he found trailers for, when he was looking, I'm just going to guess at the number. Say the one he bought was $1,500. He said he found them for $700 and $800 when he was looking. But he said this one was so much lighter, so much better made, better reviews, and he knew aluminum was good. And for him, it was the perfect thing to buy.
And my son-in-law just got a 5 or 6 foot by 12 foot aluminum for doing UTVs and taking
Exactly.
to the hunting land and stuff. And it is such a beautiful trailer. Like you say, so light. It tracks behind your truck so nicely too.
Right.
And
Right.
but you're paying additional. You can get a $1,500 to $1,800 steel trailer, or you're going to be paying $2,500 to $2,800 on a aluminum.
Right, you're going to pay more. And the big reason, like I said, that I went away from the steel trailer like I had is my trailer that I had, Trusty Rusty, as everybody called it. It was 5 years old and it was complete rust. There was no paint left on it because I deliver wood all winter long, so it got that road salt constantly. The shackles wore out, which is part of trailer.
That's normal
no big
maintenance,
deal.
yeah.
But everything was rusting on it to the point, and I changed the wiring on it 3 different times. I think I was on my 3rd set of wiring by the time I got rid of it.
Your ground usually, that's one of the
Yeah,
big problems
yeah.
is it just rusts out.
Yeah, it was so much. I knew I wanted something that was going to last a long time. It didn't have rust through the metal, but it needed to be redone, and I got an offer for it because that was right when the trailer prices were increasing. And The guy that bought it, Mike, at Life in the
908.
908, that's it. Is it 906 or 908?
906. It's Upper Michigan.
He's a Youper.
Yeah,
Aren't
a
you, Mike?
Youper.
He was going to use it primarily just on his own property.
Yes.
So he didn't worry. He didn't care so much about the brakes. Didn't care so much about the lights. And he said if he did use it off road, it was going to be running to his dad's property. He was going to use it locally, not something for over the road like I was doing. And when I'm traveling with a load of wood and I got to drive 20, 30 miles for a delivery, I don't want problems on the interstate.
Oh.
That is like because when you have those problems, you're going to say, here, take my $5,000.
That's it.
$10,000, $15,000. Make this never happen again.
That's it.
And that's why I bought a good trailer.
With the amount of usage that you get out of the galvanized trailer here, and naturally, anyone in Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Michigan can appreciate the Rust Belt. Exactly. Yeah. Down south, you definitely don't need a galvanized trailer.
Which is where a lot of trailers are made down in Texas and and I guess is it Indiana? A lot of trailers.
Just like RVs. Yeah.
Yeah. They can probably get away with not having the galvanized, but ours is made in Canada, where they invented salt.
Salt, exactly.
So, in Wisconsin here, we use a lot of road salt. Now,
that's it.
The last thing I want to bring up, unless you've got something else, is the investment in the trailer and what you can do to make money with it besides using it for yourself.
You're talking about the rental?
Yep. I know two guys that I've watched that have done that.
I just can't get myself to do that. But
they're not renting it as a trailer. They have 3 or 4 of them.
Right.
And
it's a business.
It's a business. Well, it turned into a business for this one guy. He said he had his first trailer and he used it for doing work, and people wanted to borrow it, and he said, well, they don't really want to borrow it. And the guy says, well, what if I give you $50? He said, okay. And that's how it started. And then he got it up. Now it's like $200 for a day to use his trailer and do whatever you want. And he's got 4 of them. He said those trailers have been paid for 2 times over.
You know, and I guess if you get that, I understand it. Yeah. But what do you use a dump trailer for? And you know yourself.
Cement and rock.
Everything. So it's going to be abused.
Yes.
It's like the old saying, drive it like a rental, you know. And that same thing, yeah. It's just,
but there is ways
of making money.
So if you're tight on your budget, and you're trying to, this is, I guess, something I would bring up. If you're trying to talk your spouse into why you need this trailer, that's just an option. And then another thing too is if you don't need one all the time, and I've talked about this with you and my brother, if there's something that you want and would use but can't justify spending whatever level of money it is, buy it and then have 2 or 3 other people and have an agreement that, hey, when you want to use it, I'll buy it, pay me $100, or could you pitch in $1,000, use it anytime you want. There's always creative ways to come up.
As you know, it's just like you pointed out to me. I need a trailer for something. I have a friend. So it sounds good, but you end up
when you really need it. That's when it's tough. Yeah, but there are things that you're going to rarely use. Or if you got a friend that has a item that you would like to borrow, you buy the thing he could borrow, and that's what friends are for. I mean, there's no reason everybody has to have every different type of tool, and being able to have people share stuff as long as it's the right person.
That's it, because you know yourself, there are some people you wouldn't want to borrow your tools to.
No. So, one more thing we got to do before we end here today, folks.
Look at that. They finally made it outside.
Look at this. Is this like the cutest thing ever?
Look at that.
And I'm not a cat person.
Uh-oh, it's starting to milk me. Oh.
So here you go. Say hi to the cats. There you go. We'll put them back. There we go. We'll put them back. So Mama moved them out here. We found them, and
hi.
They are cute. If they'd stay this size, I might consider keeping one, but they get big. They turn into cats.
And on that note, I think we're done.
That's it for today, folks. Tomorrow, 5:30 a.m., we're going to do another video. Not together.
No.
But next week we'll have another one. I think the next one we're going to talk about is...
splitters.
Splitters. We're talking about splitters.
Part 1 of splitters.
Yes, we're going to have a lot of parts of splitters. And we're going to do another trailer thing again, too.
Right.
We'll talk about different kinds of trailers, because just a dump trailer is like the main one.
Correct.
So we'll talk
especially in the firewood business that most of our viewers are in.
Right. So that's it for today, folks. 5:30 tomorrow a.m. We're going to have another video.
Good night, Irene.